Driving away from the airport when you've just arrived in a new country is always memorable. It's the first impression, the first taste of the sights and sounds that'll accompany my stay. And all around here it looks very normal, people going about their lives, but I know this air of normality is very misleading. I'm in Ukraine, and tensions are rising with Russia after a coup earlier in the year when a pro-Western government took power. Russia responded only a few weeks before I arrived by annexing Crimea, and pro-Russian separatists are now taking over towns in the east of the country. So this is not a place most people would want to be. Half the seats were empty on the plane from London.
Well, if you're wondering where I am, that way is the east of Kiev, and that way, just a few hours drive, is the east of Ukraine, and just over the border is Russia, and that's where all the trouble is. And I'm just going a few minutes down the street here.
So why is this English Anglican vicar walking down a Ukrainian street to speak at a conference at the height of a national crisis? As Ukraine risks descending into further turmoil and a dark future, I believe this conference will shed light on the root causes of so many of our world's tensions.
Well, we've just come a short distance and another nondescript building, no signs anywhere, but would you believe this is a church?
And this church is the Kiev Messianic Jewish congregation and is hosting the conference with delegates from all over the world. Messianic Jews accept Yeshua, Jesus, as their Messiah and still continue to observe Jewish lifestyle. So the welcome session starts with worship, which is a dynamic mix of old and new. Traditional Jewish dance mixed with modern music and streamed live onto the internet. Organised by Toward Jerusalem Council II, known as TJCII, this film is to explain why the conference took place and to hear from some of the people who took part. So where are these people from and who do they represent? Delegates are from all over the world, representing different Christian denominations from across Europe, as well as from the USA.
I'm here with the Lausanne Consultation on Jewish Evangelism, and we've just finished our 10th European Conference here in Kiev with representatives from, I think, about 19 nations. Obviously a focus on Europe, but with a lot of our brothers from the Messianic movement here in Ukraine and other countries of the former Soviet Union.
It is very exciting that at a time when in this country East and West are struggling to talk, here West does meet East, represented here by members of the Orthodox tradition. The congregation here is one of the largest Messianic congregations in the world, and the senior rabbi is Boris Gryzenko, whom I've known for 10 years since we first met at a conference in Vienna. So to understand why this conference went ahead in the middle of international tensions, we first need to understand what TJCII is. Toward Jerusalem Council II is a complicated title, so to get an explanation of its main aim, let's ask the man in charge, Johannes Fichtenbauer.
It's an initiative to bring together the Messianic Jewish movement as the future Jewish part of the church with the Gentile churches.
So that's it in a sentence. The Church is incomplete without Messianic Jews playing their full part. Johannes is a Roman Catholic deacon from Austria and opens the conference.
Around the world currently we have about 300,000 Jews who are believing in Jesus as their Messiah.
There have always been Messianic Jews, but since the 1970s, the movement has exploded.
It's this most important missing link for Christian unity without which we cannot move further.
Now that's a big claim. So what is the reason for saying this? Let's listen to Johannes, a Gentile speaker, and Benjamin Berger, a Jew from Jerusalem.
And we know that the subject of Israel is a very controversial subject in the world and also in the church. But without really dealing with Israel and what God does through Israel in history, we will not understand the ways of the Lord.
God has called Israel to be his chosen people.
Заключается в том, что Бог избрал еврейский народ
For eternity.
навеки,
Called for a special purpose.
призвал для своей особенной миссии,
Loved with a unique love.
полюбил уникальной любовью.
And God decided all the major blessings to mankind should be transmitted through the Jews.
And we have to do with a God who finishes what he begins.
И мы имеем дело с Богом, который завершает все, что начинает.
Even if it seems like it's a long, long way.
This election has never been revoked.
Это избрание неоспоримо.
God's covenant with Israel has never been redone, even not under the most severe circumstances of Israel's disobedience and betrayal against God.
We will never see the real face of Jesus until these two parts of humanity come together in Messiah.
And God never intended any separation between the Jewish and the Gentile partner in this church. In the 3rd century, something terrible happened.
В 3 столетии произошло что-то ужасное.
The Gentile bishops decided not to stay any longer in unity with their Messianic Jewish brothers.
And we still live with that problem today. The Church needs to heal the centuries-old rift between Messianic Jews and Gentile Christians. Why is that so important? The timing of this conference in Ukraine brings that home to us very clearly. Here's Johannes' view.
This nation right now is in serious crisis. The future of the nation is at stake, and the unity of the Christian churches plays a significant role of holding this whole state together in unity. And we need to help them to understand why their witness as a united people of God is so important for Ukraine.
I get to amplify that thought now. My turn to address the conference. A brief word of encouragement from Boris, and he introduces me in his usual jokey style.
Из прекрасной, чудной Британии.
From a wonderful, beautiful Britain.
The title I was given to speak to is, Why is the TJCII vision important?
Thank you very much. Спасибо большое.
The Toward Jerusalem Council II vision is important because there is violence in the streets.
Это видение очень важно по направлению к Второму собору Иерусалимскому, потому что есть жестокость на улице.
And young men will die this week.
На этой неделе молодой человек умрет.
And next in cities all over the world.
И на следующей неделе молодые люди будут погибать по всему миру.
And they will die because the God-appointed and God-ordained people
Они будут умирать, потому что Бог избрал людей,
who are called by Yeshua to bring forgiveness and reconciliation to the whole world.
которые призваны Иешуа принести примирение всему миру.
Instead of doing that,
И вместо того, чтобы это делать,
they are divided from each other
они друг от друга отделяются.
and unable to demonstrate the power of the gospel that we preach.
What evidence do I have to support that?
When Christian brothers divide
Когда христиане-братья разделяются,
and hurts and hatreds get a foothold,
боль и ненависть имеют место,
the forces of hell are released.
I know that experience from my own family background in Northern Ireland.
In Ireland,
в Ирландии.
this hurt in the body of Messiah
Эта боль в теле Мессии
has caused damage to so many people over hundreds of years.
разрушила за сотни лет столько много жизней.
It has divided friends,
Разделила друзей,
wrecked marriages,
разрушила браки,
left children orphaned,
оставила брошенных детей или осиротевших детей.
and split a nation. Here in Ukraine, if I may say so,
И сейчас в Украине, позволю себе сказать,
the situation is not so very different.
And during the conference weekend, events in Ukraine were developing fast, as I saw in the news over breakfast each morning.
I've just woken up to find that the young men of the Ukraine have just been reconscripted back into the army. And another headline reads that they've just stormed a city in eastern Ukraine. So this is very near to home now. The BBC was reporting that they're bringing back conscription to the Ukrainian army.
возвращают призыв, ну, в общем, призывной порядок будет в армии украинской.
I wonder how many young people in this congregation that will affect.
Интересно, скольких молодых людей это повлияет в общине.
And what you feel about it.
И что вы чувствуете по этому поводу.
And some, maybe not all,
некоторые, может быть, не все,
but at least some will be tracing the roots of their violent group to a split in the church.
Последуют примеру этих групп воинствующих, производя разделение в церкви.
Christians divided.
Христиане, которые разделяются.
Hurts happened. And hurting people hurt more people.
Раненые люди причиняют боль другим людям.
And the body of Messiah is God's appointed agent to bring forgiveness.
Тело Мессии — это избранник для того, чтобы принести исцеление.
And healing.
И восстановление.
And reconciliation. And if we don't live in reconciliation,
если мы сами не живем в примирении,
what hope is there for anyone else? How can a house divided against itself stand?
Но как же дом, разделившийся в себе, может устоять?
Jesus says it can't.
Иисус сказал, не может.
And how can a house divided against itself be equipped to do the job it needs in the world, in healing hurts and bringing forgiveness and reconciliation?
So that is the job of the church, the whole church, one which includes the Messianic Jews, one which worships together.
The worship's going on in their Saturday service. It's not Sunday, but it's Saturday, and we're just going to go in and join them in the middle of their service. So let's go in and see what's going on.
Yuri is a member of the congregation here, and I asked him how the situation in Ukraine is affecting him.
Это давление, которое сейчас есть на Украину,
this pressure that is now on Ukraine,
оно подняло внутренние проблемы.
It brought up problems from within.
Дом как будто бы разделился сам себе.
Like the house divided in itself.
И это хорошо.
And it's good.
Потому что каждый может принять свое решение.
Because everyone can make their own decision.
И в частности в моей семье.
And in my family specifically.
Есть человек, который служит.
I have a person that is in the military.
Службы безопасности.
In the Ministry of Security of Ukraine. He's a believer.
Православный.
Orthodox believer, though.
Но искренне.
But he's a sincere believer.
И я видел эту борьбу.
And I saw the struggle.
И сегодня я верю и вижу, что это шанс.
And today I believe and I see that it's a chance.
В первую очередь для каждого верующего.
First of all, for every believer.
Видеть Божью руку.
To see God's hand.
в сложных обстоятельствах.
in difficult and tough situations.
Давайте все вместе порадуемся перед нашим Господом. Ой, Господу царю, песню новую, и веселись над ним.
Daniel, one of the worship leaders here, has no previous exposure to Toward Jerusalem Council II. First, his comment on how the situation is impacting ordinary people.
Believers that I know, they have different opinions about this. Some do fear, but most believers probably don't. Unbelievers, I work in a company with people, unbelievers, and they really are very afraid and constantly speaking about this, constantly thinking about what will happen if that or if that, and for them it's much tougher.
I asked him what's his view of the conference.
I'm very glad that this conference is taking place. I think it's for the first time here in the former USSR countries, and it's really awesome. And the things that are said here and the idea of the conference towards Jerusalem Council too is very close to me because I'm partially Jewish, and we understand the Jewish roots of the church, and it's very important for me and for to see how the church returns and looks toward these Jewish roots.
For Amin, previously a Muslim from Iran, coming to this congregation has been completely life-changing.
As a Muslim, as a former Muslim, ex-Muslim, again, I participated in Hezbollah before, but what happened? I came to Yeshua through Jewish people, but what did they do? They didn't discuss with me. They didn't try to just convince with me. They loved me. They prayed for me, and they showed Yeshua to me, and that's all. And I was brought to the unity with Jewish people in Yeshua HaMashiach, and I love them, and I do believe it can happen with all people. But it's not possible for man; it's possible for Almighty God.
We wanted to interview somebody from the East. We were hoping that we'd be able to get somebody from the Orthodox community, but they've been unable to get out. Somebody was sick, somebody else couldn't make it because of the political situation. But I've heard that there's somebody who's a pastor in Crimea, and he's been able to come out. Miraculous story of how he drove out, and his wife and family are stuck back in Crimea.
Because of the situation, we have been asked not to show his face.
I was born in Crimea in Soviet time, and I became Christian in 21 years old. I'm the first in my family. God gave me interesting life. I'm 58 years old now. Now my family is left in the Crimea because of the circumstances, certain circumstances.
Are you going to go back to Crimea?
Personally, me, no. And I pray for God to help me to unite with my family here in Ukraine.
Will it be difficult to get your family out of Crimea?
Yes.
What will be the circumstances for people who stay?
Nobody knows.
It's an empty shell now, and all the memories of the people and the energy and the vibrancy of worship come flooding back. But as we're about to go to the airport, it just seems like now there's something missing.
And the church worldwide is missing the Jewish dimension. Without them, we are not complete.